Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Welcome, welcome, welcome. This is a special day for us. As if you have been following on my channel or if you've been following on my social media, I have been promoting and trying to encourage as many people to come out and see our discussion with regard to what's going on in our great country at this point in time. More specifically, with regard to immigration and how it affects the general population. And if you think it doesn't affect you because you're not an immigrant, then you're very mistaken with regard to that. But we specifically want to discuss how this immigration crisis is going to affect individuals, either who are already in the process of being naturalized or trying to make sure that they're taken care of in the immigration process, or individuals who were considering that entire process. Obviously, I am Marlon Brammer, your estate planning and business and real estate attorney. So, immigration is not my forte, but I have a very special guest to join us today, Miss Sharifa Tharpe from the ST Immigration Law. And she is expertise, a very good friend, expert in this area, and a very good friend of ours. And I'm going to pretty much ask you to welcome our very illustrious guest, Miss Sharifa Tharpe. Sharifa, are you there?
Hello, everybody. It's nice to join you, Marlon.
It's a pleasure having you, and I just look forward to this discussion. I know it's going to be vibrant, and hopefully we have enough people asking questions. But I do have some specific questions, so just please introduce yourself to the audience, and we'll take it from there.
All right. I'm U.S. immigration attorney Sharifa Tharpe. I myself am on social media very often because I find it very important to give empowering information that will help immigrants through this complex journey, the immigration journey. And now, this journey it has become a little more difficult. And so there are still solutions out there, and I want to be able to educate people about these solutions. So that's really a part of my mission. I am also the managing attorney at SC Law Office. And what I do is I do help clients to stay here and get protection from deportation. So this is right up my alley.
So the a lot has been going on since January 20th, right, with regard to this space, immigration. And I just want to start off with a specific article that I came across this morning. And as you know, the situation is changing as we speak. So, whatever we discuss today might not be the same tomorrow, and vice versa. But we just recently learned that the Justice Department fired multiple immigration judges amid what is already a huge case backlog. Um, let's just there's a old statement, and I hope that you kind of touch on this as well with regard to the situation that we're in as we try to evolve in this whole immigration space. And there's a specific judge who cited some notes. He specifically said that when there's a crisis such as this, the question is always going to be asked. Our history will always ask, where were the judges? Where were the attorneys? So you stand here counted today, and I would love for you to address how does this firing of all these judges affect what we're discussing today?
Absolutely. So this is definitely another blow to the process, the due process that is granted to immigrants. Believe it or not, immigrants here in the United States do have the right to due process. And the Trump administration has surprisingly fired 15 judges amid a 3.5 million case backlog. So that's surprising because we actually need more immigration judges so that everybody can have their cases heard. This is definitely an assault on due process, and it's just one of the moves to, slow down, progressive moves in immigration. For instance, the judges that were terminated were all Biden appointed judges. So I do suspect that what they're going to do is they're going to replace those judges and add judges that align more with their immigration policies and approaches. So they're going to appoint more conservative judges that are going to be less inclined to grant these forms of relief, or they're going to make it a lot harder based on just their perspective of the law. So yes, that is definitely going to affect immigrants. It's going to make it a lot harder, and it's definitely going to slow the roll here on the number of cases that are going to go forward expeditiously.
Um, how was the current administration's approach to immigration enforcement affect that due process? So you mentioned due process, and in this specific situation, but overall, I've been hearing stories from all over the place with regard to how certain enforcement is being either selective based upon certain classes of folks, based upon a certain region that you're from. How has due process been affected by this specific administration?
Oh yeah, so there is definitely it has been affected even in these past 26 almost 30 days. It has been affected drastically. There are a number of legal challenges that are up, trying to free up the due process and make sure that immigrants do have access. But for example, there are five major things that have happened here. The first is expanding expedited removal nationwide. So if you don't know, expedited removal it is the ability of the executive branch, so Border Patrol, basically, to make the decision to deport an immigrant on the spot without a court hearing, without any opportunity to have their case heard. This was just limited to 100 miles of the border, and they would have had to enter within 14 days in order to deport. They also have to show, though, that they've been in the country for less than 2 years. They have expanded this expedited removal to nationwide. That means bus stops, train stations, public highways, airports. Any officer, any border patrol officer at any given moment can do a spot check. And if they find that you have been an immigrant who have recently entered the country within the last 14 days, and or you've been here for less than 2 years and you do not have legal status or legal basis to be here, they can then put you on a plane and send you out of the country without any further hearing. So we're going to see this far reaching, right? So immigrants who are here and they are stopped, they don't have any documents on them to show that they've been here for more than 2 years, are going to probably be detained. And if they don't have any fast way to act, or they don't have an attorney to advocate for them, that means they'll be on a plane in no time. So we're going to see a lot of wrongful deportations based on this expedited removal. And it's also going to increase a lot of fear in the community and restrict their own ability to move, their freedom of movement, the freedom to work, the freedom to just be a regular human being. So that is the first attack on due process, and it's basically expanding the ability to take away the due process rights that have been granted to immigrants. My advice here would be definitely carry proof of the time you've been in the U.S. So think about the documents that you have. Have you been paying utility bills in the last 2 years? Do you have lease agreements? Have you been filing taxes? in the last 2 years. Make sure you carry those documents around. If, as a last resort, you need to show those documents, you can show the officer that you are actually entitled to due process before an immigration judge rather than being subjected to expedited removal. So, another thing is just know your basic rights. When you are stopped by the police, because now police are helping uh, the ICE and immigration enforcement to detain and deport immigrants. So if police stop you, if ICE stops you, you need to know your basic rights. Right to remain silent. And yes, this is strategic. The point of right to remain silent is not to remain silent without having an action in place, calling an attorney, having representation to help you, to advise you um, after you've asserted your right to remain silent. The other is the right to decline a search without a warrant, a valid warrant. Do not sign any documents that is a part of your Fifth Amendment right. However, do not provide any fake documents and don't panic in the moment, don't run. Make sure you cooperate with the officers, but politely assert your rights under the law. We have other issues in addition to expedited removal. There are other, attacks on due process. For example, the Trump administration has cut funding and funding to certain organizations, which were immigration legal assistant organizations. And with those, they would provide basic information to help immigrants who can't even afford representation to be able to get that information about court dates, what to expect, what kind of resources they need to access to be able to properly defend themselves and to provide the documents in a timely manner to the court to increase their chances of success, and just to be able to have that right to a process. Well, with with the defunding of these organizations, many of them have now declined to help immigrants, and so they are here and they're at a loss. Many immigrants come here for safety. They've come through the border, and they don't. They have no concept of what this process is. They just know that they came here for safety. They came here for a better life. They came here to work, and they don't know how to make a case for themselves in a legal court with all the complex types of rules in place. So, we are going to see more immigrants who don't understand how to access these resources.
Mhm.
Um, Now, another thing is that because they have cut the funding and and now these immigration organizations cannot provide the type of effective guidance that they did, what's going to happen is immigrants themselves are going to feel as if they have no rights. They are going to now become victim to that stereotype or that misconception. So here is my advice in regards to this, because I always want to follow up with empowering information. Know that you do have rights, and also there are still organizations out there that can assist immigrants. For example, you have in your local aid, they have legal aid societies that do focus on immigration in some cities. If you just Google those organizations, you'll be able to find them. Catholic charities. And then also make sure that you contact an attorney. Attorneys do have payment plans and provide different ways. Like our firm does provide the ability for our clients to get payment plans to help with the fees while we're going through their case with them.
Okay.
So act now. um, other types of and I know this is a lot, right?
Mhm.
Because there is a lot going on that is affecting due process that you do need to know about. For one, the Laken Riley Act was just signed into law by President Trump in February, and that's very alarming because if you're even arrested or accused of theft offenses. That means like non-violent theft offenses, burglary, shoplifting. The ICE must detain you. They must mandatorily detain you and process you for deportation. So, if you do have any cases like this, you need to definitely seek legal advice ASAP, because you're not only at risk for deportation, but immediate detainment. Um, so these are just some of the things that are happening right now in the administration. One of the most alarming ones, by the way, is sending immigrants to Guantanamo Bay. Guantanamo Bay is reserved for terrorists, and this is. I remember even myself working in law school, working on certain types of cases regarding torture in Guantanamo Bay. Well, it just goes to show you the scary things that can happen when you're isolated in a place like that. The least of which, or I should say the most of which, depending on how you look at it, is you're isolated. There are no lawyers. Guantanamo Bay is at a military base that is completely isolated. There's no access to lawyers or judges. The people that hear cases there are military judges and the military counsel. Other than that, we as regular attorneys cannot just access Guantanamo Bay. So there are questions about due process there. And of course, this move is there to isolate people so that they're unable to get the legal advice needed to get relief to stay in the US. There have been challenges to that. So the ACLU has filed suit to access detainees in Guantanamo Bay. And we've seen in the news that at first they were saying it's the worst of the worst that have been sent there. But now we know that's not true, because we do have a family that has come out that says their brother was sent there. He did everything to follow the law, and
Mhm.
he ended up being sent to Guantanamo Bay without a criminal record, without being a danger to anybody in the United States. So we know that many undocumented immigrants are going to be a victim to this if it's not stopped. They are building capacity for 30,000 immigrants right now, and that can change. Uh,
Mhm.
so yeah, there's a lot going on here. Thankfully, there is litigation ongoing that is trying to slow the effect of the executive action to continue the rights of due process. But what's happening.
Okay. So what I'm generally hearing is due process is under attack, but not necessarily dead at this point in time. So we need to forcefully uh, provide, our responses in a way that would assert our rights for due process. Correct?
Absolutely, exactly. So another
Mhm.
thing is a lot of people have the misconception that the mass deportation means they're just gathering people and deporting them.
Mhm.
However, there is still the requirement that they go before an immigration judge and get an order of deportation before they can be sent out. So that's the last line of defense. So still make sure that you're seeking legal advice. We as attorneys can only help if you reach out and make sure you're protecting yourself.
Okay. I do have some comments and questions that I'm going to share, and I'm going to share the good and the bad, right? Because this is a interesting, very emotionally charged subject. It can be. It doesn't have to be, but it can be. So the very first comment I got today was from a Joshua Salinas, who essentially just said, "Shut up," right? So, tell me about your experiences with regard to the change in the temperature in this specific type of subject.
Absolutely. So we're standing for human rights, and usually in cases like this, it's never easy. And so I myself have been getting threats, threats to harm, threats to attack me physically, threats
Mhm.
telling me that I should have eyes in the back of my head, and I'm doing the job of an attorney. As you said previously, in times of crisis, the judge says, years from now, we'll look and say, where were the judges? Where were the lawyers? Well, I'm making sure that I'm here to tell people, uphold the Constitution, because that is exactly what we're doing.
Mm.
As attorneys, we've taken the oath to uphold the Constitution, and that means we should not shut up. We have to be as loud as possible to promote the principles of the Constitution. And so that's what I'm doing, still moving forward to make sure that immigrants understand their human rights, their basic rights, their constitutional rights.
Good. And it's there's another news report I saw where the representative was literally just sharing ways in which she could help her constituents, and I think the director of the immigration of ICE essentially said that she's committed a crime, right, just by sharing what you're sharing, what they
Yeah.
can do, the options that they can exercise. So I find that to be very interesting. I have another question from this is a glove master says, how long for I-360 to be approved?
Okay, so the I-360 is usually in reference to VAWA, so Violence Against Women's Act. And right now we're seeing 3 years. However, what I'm saying now is sometimes people will hear 3 years and they'll just try to find the next option. But the I-360, if we're talking about VAWA here, provides specific protections for immigrants while they're applying. That's the important part. So you shouldn't hesitate. You get a prima facie determination notice, and that provides you protections and gives you access to resources in the state. And you cannot be, while your case is going forward, it is very unlikely, unless something new happens that makes you deportable, they will not likely pick you up and then deport you until your case is adjudicated by the USCIS. So when we talk about 3 years, there's a lot going on within the 3 years. So in most cases, you're able to apply for the work permit through adjustment of status along with the I-360. The work permit right now, they're issuing 5-year work permits. And we don't know how long that's going to be for. Hopefully it stays, but the Trump administration may reduce the not length of the work permit. So this is all, again, why it's very important to make sure you apply now. But you also, with the work permit, you're able to get your driver's license, your social security number. When you're stopped, you can present that to a police officer or an ICE officer, and they are less likely to detain you unless, of course, something new comes up.
Okay, good. I have someone that says hi. Sam says hi. Hi, Sam. How are you? And another person here, Princess Black, says, hey, good afternoon. How are you? Hope all is well. I applied for a TV visa.
On
And
TV.
recent, okay, she recently got married. Where do I go from here?
Okay, so if I'm thinking you're saying T visa, and recently got married, where do you go from there? So if you got married, you're applying for the T visa, but you got married to a U.S. citizen, then the U.S. citizen may be able to sponsor you. But I would say this is where it's so important to have your attorney, because you need to understand from a strategic point of view, does that make sense, right? The T visa does offer you protection where you don't have to get married to get your papers. But if you did find that someone, a US citizen who you want to build your life with, and you 100% trust your spouse, then maybe that would be the right path. You'd have to definitely, though, make sure you seek legal advice. We are here, we're available to assist clients. So go ahead and give us a call. We're at ST Law Office on Facebook. So go look us up and then give us, we do free initial evaluations. Now, if you're talking about you are applying for the T visa and now you married a spouse, whether that spouse can qualify for the T visa with you, absolutely. So at that point, your spouse should be applying for the T visa along with you. But as usual, I'm not your attorney. I can't give you specific legal advice. So this is where you need to reach out to us and give us a call.
Okay, great. All right, and we have another one from a K Jackson. What rights? They're here illegally. How do you address that?
Right. I mean, it's just fact. They may be here without their papers right now, but it's just a fact. As a human being here under the jurisdiction of the United States, they have rights. I know some people don't like to hear that, but that's just a fact. So I'm so sorry, but spreading this misinformation on your side is what is causing a lot of immigrants not to reach for help. And I'm here to counter that information. So they have rights. I'm sorry to disappoint you, but that's the case.
Yeah, once you're in the jurisdiction of any country or any state, whether you committed a crime or not, there's a process in which we take care of that crime, right? So you have to adhere to the rules, and they have the right to adjust their status just like anyone else.
And
Um,
then here's another irony is that many of them will say, what rights? Why don't they do it the right way? Well, what do you think they're trying to do? They're trying to do it the right way.
yeah,
When they are going through us as immigration attorneys and we're helping them to seek relief, they're doing it the right way.
yeah. I'll only remind folks that Elon Musk was an illegal immigrant at one point in time.
Right,
Ironic,
exactly.
We have another question here. Hello, all. How long does it take for an IJ to cancel and reopen a case?
So, I've seen this for about 6 months to a year, just depending on negotiations. So, it really is, this is on a case by case basis, but it depends on what's going on the back end. Is there negotiations going on between your counsel and government counsel, or have they declined to do a joint motion to reopen? And so, does your attorney have to be now appealing to the judge to reopen and terminate the case? So it just depends. I mean, it can go anywhere from 6 months to 12 months, just depending on what's happening.
Okay. And another question here from Queen Best. I applied for renewal of my work permit last year, December. How long before I can get the card?
So I'm seeing anywhere from 6 months to 12 months. And it also depends on what kind of work permit. Is it based on marriage? Is it based on family? Is it based on humanitarian? Is it based on asylum? What I would say though is the good news is right now, when you get that receipt notice, as long as you applied for the work permit before it was expired, then you're going to get a receipt notice. And that receipt notice is going to be as good as a work permit. You can show that to show that you have an automatic extension of 540 days. So basically a year and a half extension. You have to show it along with your expired green card to your employer. And in some cases, employers are they may not be they may be misinformed about what's required. And sometimes we've even had to step in for our clients to inform them that they do have to accept that as proof of an automatic extension. So hold on to that receipt notice, carry it with you to show the automatic extension along with your expired card. Please note that if you got a combo card with a travel document on that expired card, the extension does not extend to travel. And I wouldn't advise anybody travel right now anyway.
Okay. All right. Another question here. They're coming in. My receipt date for T visa is 3/29/24. When can I look for work permit?
Yeah. So here's what's happening now with the T visa. So they had implemented a policy back in August 28th, 2024, stating that they would now issue bona fide determinations and work permits upon a granting of the bona fide determination. That's basically deferred action, protection for the immigrant while they wait for the approval of the T visa. They implemented that rule August 28, 2024, and it was unclear about what would happen to those who applied before August 28th. There were some indications that they would consider them for the work permit and bona fide determinations. But what has happened is they are trying to decide the case first for anybody who applied before August 28th, 2024. They are trying to make a final decision on that case, but if they don't make a final decision, they will issue a bona fide determination, and then wait for a response on the request for evidence. So they are now saying they'll only issue a bona fide determination if they have to issue a request for evidence. And while we wait for the to respond, work to respond to the request for evidence, they'll issue that protection and maybe the work permit. So I would say look out for a final decision before a work permit in your case. If they do have a request for evidence, then you might be granted a bona fide determination. Cases right now are taking 12 months to 18 months. I'm noticing they are getting a little longer. We just got an approval. We just got an approval um, last week. We just got an approval Thursday, and we filed that case. So we filed it in October of 2020, October of 2023. So, and we just got the decision. So it's taking a little over a year. So I do say 12 to 18 months for a
Yes.
decision.
Perfect. There's a follow up on Miss Queen Best's question. I think she had
Yeah,
raised a question with regard to that, and
I
based
agree.
on VAWA.
Yes, yes,
Okay.
yes.
All right. And Wilson asks, cancel, deny to join and reopen even with I-30 approved. I'm not sure if it's a question or a statement.
Yeah, so I'm not sure here. And usually when it comes to these, it sounds like you're in removal proceedings. When it comes to these, they're far more complex than I can address here. It really comes down to strategy, what's happening, why are you in removal proceedings? Why was there a deny to join? So, I had previously talked about whether council I had agreed to join the motion to reopen. It looks like here it was not. They denied to join. And so it has to go to the judge. And so that's where I'm assuming that's where it is right now. So it really comes down to then the judge's docket and their schedule.
Okay. What happens if an undocumented person works but doesn't pay taxes?
So, with in this case, technically under the law, you are supposed to pay taxes. I do understand, and I've many people do. I mean, it has been revealed that undocumented immigrants pay $93 billion in taxes. So a significant portion of tax revenue comes from undocumented immigrants. What I would say here is you can pay those taxes if you're uneasy about it. You can apply for an ITIN, and our firm does assist our clients to get an ITIN to be able to file their taxes. Filing taxes can be a good thing for immigration. So immigration does look at that. They look at it positively. It can show good moral character. It can also show continuous presence in the United States if you do have to show that. So I would encourage you to definitely look into paying those. As in regards to enforcement, anybody who is living here in the United States who doesn't pay taxes, they do face that risk of potential uh, enforcement by the IRS. They do face that. I mean, it's rare, but that is a possibility as well.
Okay. This is DJ Snooks asked, hey, I put my stuff in everything the right way, but how can my wife put me on her taxes if I don't have a SS?
ITIN. So definitely you can get in touch with us. So if you are on YouTube, just find us. My channel is Getting the Green Card. You can find us there and click on the link, contact us, and let us know that you would like to get an ITIN to be able to go on your spouse's taxes, and we can help you to obtain the ITIN.
Okay. And a follow up to the our previous tax question says, I'm scared to pay taxes because IRS agents are now helping ICE agents, as per a report I saw on the news last week.
Yes, absolutely. So now they are trying to defer the efforts of the IRS to immigration enforcement. What they did say is that they are focusing on trafficking. So employers who are trafficking undocumented immigrants. So I wouldn't. What I would say here is you don't want to be charged with tax evasion. That can be a deportable offense, and you want to show that regardless of what is happening, you're complying with the law. Um, with the ICE agents, they're taking ICE agents from the criminal division, so not necessarily the tax filing division, but the criminal division, to be able to help with ICE enforcement in regards to hunting employers who are trafficking immigrants. But it is not necessarily targeting immigrants who are paying taxes.
Okay. And Mr. Snooks, he followed up by saying, I guess this is a continuation. He filed over 18 months already and no response. This is in response to his earlier question of putting his items in on her taxes, on her his
Mhm.
wife's taxes.
Exactly. So, it just depends on where you are. I would highly recommend you speak to an attorney about your case. If you've been waiting for 8 months, that's not necessarily out of the ordinary. Processing times for marriage-based cases can go anywhere from 10 to 12 months, and that was without the interview. Now we can expect that soon we'll be hearing announcements that all marriage-based cases are going to go through interviews again. So they may be slowing down the process to be able to come up with new immigration policies and procedures that they're going to adopt. And one of those, maybe you may be called in for an interview, but I would say 8 months is not out of the ordinary, as long as you got your receipt notice. I don't know if you got your work permit. I don't think so, because if you got your work permit, you would have gotten an SSN. But you have to just, when my clients' cases are taking too long, it really does prompt me to have to check to see what's going on. Did they receive everything? Did they ask for anything else? So in your case, if you're waiting 8 months for a work permit, I would say work permits can take that long as well, just depending on what your application said. So check on your case. Check to see, make sure they haven't contacted you. Check to make sure they haven't issued a work permit and you didn't get it. Make sure they have your right address, just to make sure there's nothing on your end that you have to do. And you're doing the right thing, by the way, by thinking about the taxes, because if you do have to provide additional evidence of your bona fide marriage, then taxes is with you, both of you on the taxes, that's a good way to show it.
Okay. And another one from the Peanut Gallery, just get out and save us the trouble of removing you. Now, though it's done in not the best spirit, it does raise a question. Are there folks who are self-electing to be removed? Have you come across this?
So I've had one or two questions from people, and I've had colleagues that says they've been getting questions saying, can they just uh, self deport? Many immigrants, vast majority of immigrants, don't have that option, and it shouldn't be an option under their circumstances. Many of the clients that I represent, they have been forced to stay here through trafficking, labor trafficking, and sex trafficking. They've been forced to be here without papers based on mistreatment by family members, people who have been living here legally, and they have no support in their country. Their country isn't safe. So that's not an option for a vast majority of immigrants. Of course, those who do want to leave, it is, I don't want to advise on that just because it's really on a case by case basis. But much of the concern is, can they leave safely without being detained? In most cases, it's rare to be detained while you're leaving, but that may be a possibility just depending on, are you wanted? Is there something else going on that would make them stop you from leaving the country? Um, but yeah, this comment here has no basis really. It's just hateful.
Yeah. Let's move on to the next one. The next one is, how do I contact you in Miami?
Yeah. So go to Getting the Green Card on YouTube. That's a channel, all one word, Getting the Green Card, and you'll be able to see our link there on the channel. Click on the link, and you will be able to complete a form, and you can also give us a call on the number listed there.
Okay. And I have Queen Bess. I guess she's following up on her earlier question. I filed for VAW in 2022 September. When should I be looking for approval?
So approval sometime this year. So I'm noticing that they are taking about 3 years. So you should be getting an approval this year. But keep in mind, I don't control processing times. Processing times can change, especially now that we are going to see a lot of policy changes. But what I would say is I've seen about 2.5 to 3 years on the processing times.
Okay. All right. There are 119 people watching and only 11 likes. Please like up the live, people. I guess double tap the screen to like the live. The info we're getting is invaluable. I agree. I agree. This is
Thank
information that's going to
you.
help everyone.
Thank you,
This,
Work, Pray, and Hustle TV. I appreciate that.
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It's going to help everyone, including the haters.
Yeah,
Because if we get these people, you know, under the law, protected under the law, then we won't have this issue and we won't be talking about it,
that's
right?
right. That's right. And one thing that a lot of people say, just do it the right way. Well, that's what we're here to do. Help immigrants to do it the right way.
All right. I'll have another question from Faith. What about undocumented immigrants married to USA citizens with 3 kids born in here? 2 of the 3 has kids as asthma and their mom has health issues. What can she do?
Right. So my question here would be, why are you not going through the marriage-based process? I mean, it sounds like undocumented immigrants, married to US citizen, 3 kids born, 2 of the kids have asthma. I guess now in cases where you are unable to just go for the marriage-based green card through a US citizen, there's one of 2 things going on here. You're either facing mistreatment by a US citizen spouse, or you have entered the country without permission, and so there is a block to get the green card while you're here in the US. If you are being mistreated by your US citizen spouse and you enter the country without permission, you can still apply for special relief that gets you the green card without involving that spouse, and it's confidential. And you certainly have some compelling circumstances going on here that would make your case stronger for VAWA. However, I don't know your situation, and this is exactly why you need to definitely reach out to give us a call. And we offer free initial evaluations. So that helps us to be able to find solutions for you very quickly and then jump straight into formulating a strategy for you after. So after the initial evaluation, we meet with you as the attorneys to get straight onto strategy. So I would say if it's one of the 2, you need to definitely give us a call. Let's talk about your circumstances. That's going to be very important to determine what is the best option going forward.
Okay. And Faith, I sent the link for you to check out her website and reach out to her. Okay. We have Das is asking, is payment by debit card or what are your payment methods?
Yeah, so we do debit card, credit card. We even do e-check as well as PayPal. So we are very flexible on that. And if you give us a call, the staff would be able to help you right away to get started. And they do start with an evaluation first. So We don't waste your time. We don't waste your money.
Okay. And Winsome asks, my son is a U.S. citizen, petitioned for me on I-30 only last March. The case status states that it is being actively reviewed. Do we wait for the I-30 approval or continue with the AOS?
Oh boy. I really hope that you did apply for the adjustment of status. I mean, if all the conditions are correct, I applying. So if you have a US citizen son, you enter the country with a visa, meaning you entered legally, you didn't enter across a border, and you have a US citizen son who's 21 or older, then you would definitely qualify for adjustment of status at the same time that you file the I-130. The benefit of that is you get your protection from early on. Within 3 to 6 months of applying, you would get your work permit, you'd get your travel document, you'd get your social security number, and you could get your driver's license or your state ID. The I-130 alone, unfortunately, does not offer the same protections. Get in touch with us. This is definitely a sign that you need guidance along the way. If you have not filed your adjustment of status yet, I would say that that definitely should be something you look at doing, and we can help you to do that pretty quickly.
Okay. All right. Will deportation affect naturalized citizens as well as all that was born here by those that are naturalized?
No.
It's a good question.
No. So right now, no, deportation will not affect naturalized citizens. It's very, very hard to denaturalize US citizens. I believe in the last 20 something years, there have been 200 cases brought against naturalized citizens to try to strip them of their citizenship. I would say the part where we see that the most is where if they revisit your file and they find that there was some kind of fraud or a lie in your application, that had they known that at the time, you would have never gotten citizenship, or it showed you intentionally defrauded them to get citizenship, then they can make a case to have it stripped. Or if there was a major mistake, sometimes that can lead to denaturalization. But there's not going to be a widespread denaturalization of citizens in order to get them deported. I know there has been some talk. So Stephen Miller, which has also been dictating some of the more restrictive policies, has pushed that he's going to open up a special office, and he did that in the last administration to investigate citizenship files and be able to start to bring denaturalization cases. So we may see some activity there, but on a widespread level, it's unlikely.
Okay. Like, share, and subscribe. It's free. That's from Das. All right. I agree.
Right.
Thank you, Das.
Yes.
All
Thank you so much, Daz.
right. And we have Mr. or Miss Romolo waiting for T visa decision filed August 2023 with derivatives. I'm looking forward to the approval.
Absolutely. I'm there with you on that.
All right. Samson says, my friend married a green card holder years ago. She was on legal status. They are separated now, but no, not divorced. My friend is out of status. Can she still apply for an adjustment of status?
So I would say it depends on the circumstances, but if say this spouse mistreated her and that is one of the reasons why they're even separated, throughout the marriage she was mistreated, then VAWA is an option where she could apply for her own papers. With the VAWA, I would say get on it now, though. It's urgent because when you're married to a green card holder with VAWA, it's a two-step process. So the sooner you apply is the sooner you can get to the relief, like the work permit and the travel document and social security number. So get on it. It's a possibility if mistreatment occurred. Give us a call. We can ask your friend. Your friend should be giving us a call, and we can go through an initial evaluation to qualify them and then get started on it.
All right. And Das follows up and says she'll be calling you soon. This is really helpful. Thank you,
Okay.
Das. And she found you through the algorithm. So like, share, and subscribe, and you'll get this informative information. When
Exactly.
can I apply for citizenship if I get a green card from VAWA and spouse LPR? That's Andrew Lopez.
5 years. So if you had applied for the VAWA when your spouse was a U.S. citizen, or if your spouse was a U.S. citizen, it would be 3 years. But if VAWA for an legal permanent resident spouse is 5 years from the time you got approved.
Okay, good. Thank you. Coming from Happy, we appreciate it. Thank you
Thank
for
you,
watching
Happy.
and supporting us. All right. As Mead Balse, sorry if I'm butchering your name. I overstayed my visa for 12 years. I got TPS if I return to my country voluntarily. After my TPS expired, can I return with a B1 visa to the US?
It's very unlikely. So definitely consider your options very carefully, because if you overstayed your visa for 12 years, then you got TPS, you're barred for 10 years. And that means that they will not grant you a visa until you've been out of the country for 10 years. So be very careful. And remember, the B1 visa, you've already stayed in the country for more than 12 years. So it means that they're not going to give you that B1 visa because they've already seen that you have an overstay for many years on your record.
Very good. All right. And we have a comment from Anders Campbell. Very informative, Mrs. Sharp. 1 out of 1 million, highly rated. So that's a review if I ever heard of
Yeah.
one, right? So
Hi,
that's positive.
Andres. It's nice to see you.
Yeah. All right, and we have Keiko saying, or Kai, I'm sorry, someone considering applying for N400. Is it okay to do so? They got divorced in December and I-75 one been pending almost 4 years. GC holder for 5 years. Would they need lawyer representing at an interview?
You're never going to catch me saying don't get a lawyer,
Hmm.
especially now. I've seen in the last, so I did practice during the last administration. So this is why I'm very knowledgeable about what's coming next. And I saw so many people fall into this trap where they just thought their application was going to be really simple. They went in, maybe they had a little issue they were concerned about, but they just decided to go by themselves, and they fell into a trap of signing documents that further made their case worse. They were being stripped of their, if they went in for the N400, they were actually being stripped of their green card or sent to immigration court instead. So you're never going to catch me saying don't go with a lawyer. That make sure, especially in these times, that you have the representation and guidance of a licensed attorney. No notarios, no so-called immigration specialists on the street corners. No, a licensed attorney, experienced immigration attorney that can guide you through the process, because there's going to be a lot of curveballs along the way and you want to be ready for them.
Okay. This comment that deserves to be read. Do you recommend traveling right now for green card holders? I'm looking to travel and I'm worried, and I've heard the language in the 14th Amendment on birthrights will be changed. We've heard a lot of about birthright citizenship being affected, the attack on the Constitution itself, and what do you recommend for Craig June Jones here?
Yeah. So, as a green card holder, it is safe to travel. I would say make sure all your T's are crossed and your I's are dotted. Do not leave with an expired green card. Do not leave with an expired green card that's about to expire. Make sure if you leave the country, you do not stay out of the country for more than 6 months. And as a matter of fact, I would say I would say 6 months is pushing it. Especially if you're looking to apply for citizenship, you want to limit your international travel to short trips outside of the country. But you just have to make sure that you haven't been arrested, you haven't there's nothing in your background that's going to bring any concern, that your green card is valid and current, unexpired, before you leave the country. If you, for example, you have a 2-year green card and you got an extension letter, make sure you have the original extension letter, not a copy, and the original, along with your expired green card. And I would say in this case to be very careful, because if you're outside of the country and your 2 year to 10 year green card is denied, you could face problems getting back into the country. I've seen this happen. I've gotten calls from people who were outside of the country. They assumed their card was going to be approved and they were outside of the country when they found out it was not. So make sure that you don't have anything of concern in your background before you travel on that green card. And always, if you have an attorney, make sure you keep in touch with your attorney. Make sure you tell them you're traveling and ask for the advice directly from the attorney. Because whenever my clients are traveling, I really advise them on a case by case basis. I tell my clients every time they're going to travel, I ask them to tell me. And right now, as a matter of fact, I'm telling my clients stay put until we can understand, we can get settled into this administration and we can understand what their approach to travel is. Stay put. Especially if you're here in the country undocumented,
Hmm.
don't travel, especially by plane.
Okay. With regard to the birthright citizenship, what do you think is going to happen there?
Exactly. So the 14th, I here's the deal. The good news is I think we're safe on that. Multiple judges, I think we're on the fourth or fifth or sixth judge now, has blocked the executive order going forward. One
Mhm.
judge, did he said in an impassioned speech that this is blatantly unconstitutional. So yes, it's the litigation is continuing, but it's blocked right now. So that means that anybody who's born in the United States is a US citizen, no matter if the parents are undocumented or not. We do expect the Trump administration to continue to litigate this issue, and it probably might get to the Supreme Court. If it gets to the Supreme Court, I mean, we have seen outrageous decisions coming out from the Supreme Court before. That makes me a little nervous, but I really do believe that the law, the precedent is on our side in this case.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much for your response. I do have a question that I don't see raised yet, which is related to the traveling. I've been hearing folks saying that they have dual citizenship. They might have a citizenship with the Bahamas and the United States, and they use their Bahamas passport to travel to the Bahamas. And when they were traveling back home, they try to use their U.S. passport, and they were literally held at the airport. Have you heard this, or what is the proper response in a case like this?
That has always been a gray area in immigration law.
Hmm.
Usually, under immigration law, you're not supposed to swear an oath to another country, right? Especially to the other country's military. But for the most part, they have allowed dual citizenship. I remember in my early years in practice, we worked on a case where our client had three citizenships in three different countries and still got citizenship in the United States. So, what I would say though, under this administration, you can expect scrutiny and the possibility of further action being taken in those cases. For
Hmm.
example, where we have seen an executive order that was signed on January 20th, pushing the Department of State, along with other government entities, agencies, to increase visa vetting. Part of it is to make sure that whoever enters the country has fits within the ideology of the United States. So we can possibly see new policies and new scrutiny implemented under that approach, where they want to make sure that if you do have dual citizenship, that you are still exercising the values of the values, whatever that means, of the United States and the ideologies of the United States, and you're not hostile to the United States. So while that has not been a straight up concern where we think they're going to start stripping people of US citizenship because they have another citizenship, we can definitely expect scrutiny at the airport when you're coming in regarding your multiple citizenships.
And we recently saw where Governor DeSantis of the state of Florida, he passed, well, with the support of the legislation, he essentially forced them to pass a litigation that, no, laws that would essentially help to enforce immigration laws here in the state of Florida.
Yeah.
Where do you see that going as far as a constitutional crisis, if
Yeah.
any?
So there is some conflict here between, no, normally there would be, for example, if it was a Biden administration, there would be conflict between the policies of the Biden administration and Florida law. Now, what the DeSantis has said is that they're going to pass this law to be in line with President Trump's agenda. And
Hmm.
because of that, I do not believe that there's going to be a constitutional challenge in regards to which law prevails, the federal law or the state law.
Got it.
However, we may see that happen when it comes to private organizations, because one of the issues is uh, for example, they've criminalized, and this is major, by the way, they have criminalized being an undocumented immigrant here. So please, if you're living in Florida, be very aware of the risks that you're facing now. If you are caught entering the state or re entering the state and you came into the country without permission, that means you're undocumented here, then they're going to charge you with a misdemeanor. And that does have a penalty of up to 9 months in jail. So keep in mind that that's happening right now, and that's under state law. And now, is there a conflict? Maybe Trump may not see it that way, so there may not be a challenge there. In addition to that, the DeSantis has created other immigration laws to create hurdles against undocumented immigrants, DACA recipients who President Trump has said he will protect, no longer have rights to in state tuition. So now tuition is a lot more expensive for undocumented immigrants to access. So when it comes to any potential constitutional conflicts, um, not in regards to conflict between federal and state right now. But one thing is, under federal law, it is criminal. It's not criminal, it's civil. Under state law, they have made it far more stringent and made it criminal to be an undocumented immigrant. That can create issues in regards to how can you interpret the law? Is there uniformity across the states and consistency across federal and state? How can an immigrant, a person who is here in the United States, be able to interpret the law where one law it's a non-criminal and in the other law it's criminal? So we may see challenges there, but just be very wary that right now Florida is not a safe state to be. Your risks are very high of being caught up in either enforcement efforts, because now police, by the way, are not only can they are mandated to work with immigration to detain immigrants. So it's very hostile right now. And keep in mind, remember we talked about expedited removal, and it's usually within 100 miles of the border. But remember, Florida is a very narrow state, and so that means the entire Florida peninsula is subject to expedited removal. If they stop you, they find you've been here for less than 2 years, or you've recently entered the country, then that's grounds for expedited removal.
Okay. I know we're coming up. We're actually over time, but I do have do you have time for a few more
Absolutely.
questions?
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
All right. One person asked. This is Michael. He says, before my biometric appointment, I-765 case was 2 months after biometric. It moved to 8 months, and after 2 days, moved up to 10 months. Do you think there's a problem?
No, so this is normal, and I find that app to be very unreliable and annoying.
Mhm.
Because it's just that's based on where the wind blows, they just change the dates on it. So you can't count on it. Um, I go by the pattern that I see in my case types that when I talk to my colleagues, I see their case length through and I'm able to come up with more reliable processing times. This just makes clients really anxious.
Okay. This question I think warrants a consultation. It's a string from Mr. Peter Iluma. He says his my U.S. citizen wife filed for me. We're currently on consular processing outside the United States. Her divorce decree became absolute on the 20th of February. I'm sorry, 2024, but was typed wrongly as February 20th, 2023, when it was supposed to be the 2024. I showed her the error after a few months later, and we had already filed the I-30 marriage petition. Immediately, I'm sorry for the length. Immediately, she contacted the lawyer who worked on the case, and the lawyer had gone back to the court and had already corrected this error. Not
Yeah,
how do we? His question is, how do we inform USCIS and correct this error since we've already filed for a petition?
right, definitely. So it's a matter of getting it to the right place. They may issue a request for evidence because of the error. They might see that the dates are off, especially if the divorce happened after the date of the incorrect date happened after your marriage to your USC spouse. They may issue a request for evidence or a notice of intent to deny, and that would be the opportunity to reply. But in cases like this, where you found the error first, it's a matter of finding out where is your case right now at the USCIS, and then sending the corrected information to that location. But you have to make sure you find the right place and make sure you send all the documents so they can tie the additional information you're sending to the right case, and then still hang on to another copy in case you still get a notice of intent to deny. Sometimes things get lost, especially if you're trying to send it after the fact. So just make sure you have it ready in case you have to respond again to a request for evidence or a notice of intent to deny. But I would say once again, now is not the time to be trying to navigate these waters on your own. Get an attorney, because these simple issues, and I think you said you're outside of the United States, by the
Hmm.
way. And
Hmm.
here's another thing I have to tell you: if you're outside of the United States, one error can delay your case by 6 months, literally. One error, one simple error like this one. So, for example, if it goes to the National Visa Center and now they are requesting this document, you send in the wrong document, and then it will take them 3 months to reply to tell you it's wrong, send another one, they're not accepting it. And then they're going to give you 3 months again to reply, or 3 months again to then tell you, confirm, okay, they've accepted it. So please don't navigate this by yourself.
Okay. And he says he has have the updated copy, and I guess it went through the Vermont Service Center.
Right. And I can't, even though you filed it at the Vermont Service Center, it's not a guarantee it's still there. So that's where you need to get an attorney. Make sure you're doing it correctly.
Okay. All right. There are a lot more questions. Do you want to answer them, or is a
Yeah,
good
let's
time
go.
to?
I mean, if anybody who watches my lives knows that I can be on here for an hour and
Good,
45
good,
minutes.
good, 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 good. All right. So this is either a question or a statement. It says, Is it safe to travel on advanced parole presently?"
I would say it's very risky, definitely more risky than previously. I do advise my clients on a case by case basis. Generally, I'm saying stay put until your case is completed. Because if you're on advanced parole, it means that you're some case is pending. You have some kind of case pending, and you just got a temporary permission to travel. Keep in mind, advanced parole gives you the ability to leave to come back, but there's no guarantee they'll let you in. when you're trying to get back in. If the officer at the border, which we know we're going to have a lot more scrutiny, it's going to get a lot stricter if they find anything in your background that uh, they feel is not aligned with their policies to let you back in, they're going to deny you entry, or they're going to forward you to immigration court. So be very careful. I'd say if you can avoid travel for right now.
Okay. We have just said as asking if I return to my country after overstayed my visas, can my citizen child apply for me to come back?
No. Now, I would say this, don't make the mistake of just running out of the country without understanding the implications of this. If you overstayed and you're saying, okay, I'll just leave because of everything that's happening, I'm just gonna leave and I'll make my child apply for me. Your citizen child has to be 21 or older to apply for you. And once you've overstayed your visa by a year, even by 6 months, you are barred for at minimum 3 years. If you overstay by a year, you're barred for 10 years. So if your citizen adult child applies for you now, you're still going to be barred from coming back for 10 years. And there's nothing that they can really do about that. So you have to be very, very careful and understand the repercussions of leaving the country.
All right. And I think this is a follow up for Mr. Jones Sr. He says that his record is clean and everything is in order and up to date. I'm only looking to travel 2 weeks, noting nothing nothing less. And I'm traveling along with my spouse, who is a U.S. citizen by birth. Does that make a
Okay.
difference?
Yes, but I sometimes I don't want you to be following up with this to get confirmation from me that you can travel because I'm not your attorney. I can't give you personalized legal advice. You really do have to just, understand, take the general information I gave you. But if you're really nervous, get an attorney to talk to you individually to give you personalized legal advice.
Okay. And he thanks you for the advice.
Thank you.
We have Das following up and saying, I'm now taking the lift. It's so expensive, but I'm afraid to take the bus and train.
Yeah,
Um,
I definitely understand. And yeah, the public transportation and trains are subject to ICE raids and ICE searches. So I would say do what you can to protect yourself and reduce the risk of any kind of interaction. But I do understand that it is causing undue hardships because private transportation is a lot more expensive. Yeah.
okay. We have Winsome again asking, should we go ahead with AOS before having the I-30 approved?
This is where you need to contact us to schedule an appointment because we have to see what your case is about. Normally, if you are a US citizen, your child, I think, is a US citizen, you came into the country legally. Adjustment of status is something you're supposed to apply for at the same time as the I-130 so that you can get the benefits of protection while you wait for the green card to be approved. But I don't know the facts of your circumstances, and there could be little curveballs in there that changes that general information. So this is where I say, don't go it alone. Schedule an appointment and let's talk so that we can strategize and let you know the right thing to do.
Okay, Petri, we never thought it would come either, but we're here to help you along the way, right? And I understand you think it's less of a dream and it's more of a nightmare, but
Mhm.
just hang in there. We're here to help you out. All
Yeah.
right. AVC says if I have travel documents, I travel and come back, do I receive a pardon for overstayed my visa?
No, no, it doesn't change anything. Um, the travel document is just there to say, in the meantime, they'll allow you to travel. So now, if you enter the country without permission, you got advance parole, and then you came in with the advance parole, that provides proof of legal entry. But your visa that you overstayed did the same thing, and that does allow people to then seek relief. through family or through a spouse, but it's not in and of itself going to fix the overstay.
Okay. AI or Al asks, "Hi, what is the best visa for a nurse? I do have a degree and 20 years of experience."
So right now, nurses are on what's called a Schedule A under employment-based green cards, and ironically, the green card could be the fastest way to get status here in the United States. Because what the Schedule A says, it lists out occupations that you don't need a labor certification, where employers have to go through extra hoops to be able to get permission to apply for you. They can just submit the immigration papers for you to be able to get your green card as a nurse that they want to hire. But you do have to have the employer who wants to do that for you still. And you still do have to have a current priority date based on the country that you're in to be able to file an adjustment of status if you're here in the US. And you do have to be maintaining your legal status here. So if you're a nurse, but you've already overstayed your visa and you don't no longer have a current visa, then this may not be the best option for you. But that is the best option if you're looking to stay here permanently.
Okay. Should a good question here? Should a naturalized citizen carry their citizenship certificate with them on a daily basis?
So, if you want to be extra careful, I would say this: you don't need to carry your certificate. There are other ways to show that you are a US citizen. If you have your passport, having your driver's license, it does have information just as long as you updated your driver's license. Make sure if you're a naturalized citizen, you update your license at the DMV, you update your social security number, because if you didn't, it's going to show on those documents that you have that you're still a permanent resident. As long as you updated the DMV, updated social security on your naturalization, you can carry your driver's license with you. If you really want to safeguard yourself, if you really want to be super careful, maybe your passport, but your driver's license should be enough, or your state ID.
Okay. And Petri just kind of reinforced that by saying she made a copy and carried that. Is that okay? Is a copy of the certificate okay?
Yeah, exactly. Carrying a
Mm,
copy too is good. Yeah.
okay. All right. Peter, again, he asks, COVID vaccine has been abolished for adjustment of status within the USA, but does this apply to consular processing outside the US? US citizen petitioning for a spouse outside.
Yes, yes. It's across the board. So that's one of the good things. That's one of the good pieces of news that I got, because I've had clients that have had to apply for waivers for the COVID vaccine. So no, you don't need a waiver to be able to get approved for the green card.
Perfect. And Mr. Snooks, he says he loved this info. Thanks so much for all that you're doing here. Um, KK says, my green card holder mom files for minor daughter who is in a lawful status on visitor visa. How long will it take for I-130 and AOS to be approved?
This is where I say this now, KK, I don't want to freak you out, but this is where I say a lot of people make mistakes because they think a green card holder parent can just file for their minor child the same as a US citizen parent can file for their minor child who's under 21. There are special rules that apply here for green card holders who are sponsoring their minor daughter. The main one I'm concerned here about is the priority date and whether the minor daughter can maintain their legal status for the duration of the time until the priority date is current. So this is where I say get legal advice and do it before the daughter overstays, because at this point it probably is even far better for her minor daughter to stay outside of the United States. Just depending on the timing here, and the timing depends on the priority date. And the priority date is this complex type of date that we look at. So it's a date that the Department of State issues every month that basically tells us when certain categories of immigrants can apply for adjustment of status. So a lot of people don't know how to read it, and that's they just think apply for a green card while the child is in the US and they're all good. No, that priority date is usually the missing piece. So get in touch with us so we can talk you through it and help you get through this process.
Okay. Annette Lawrence asks, after a green card is expired to renew, will they check criminal records before issuing the green card?
Yes, yes, they do every time. So they're going to look to because they want to make sure that there's nothing in your background that now makes you deportable before issuing the green card. So that is definitely a certainty.
Okay. And Cheryl asks, if I come to the US as a visitor and apply for a work permit and it was denied, would that consider be considered overstaying my visitor visa?
No, but it still can be held against you because if you applied for a work permit while you were on a visitor's visa, then the embassy would be able to see that information and they may hold it against you as proof that you were trying to stay in the United States on a visitor's visa or you were trying to work on a visitor's visa. So, just be very careful about that.
Okay. And the certificate on the naturalization paper says that you can't make copies in red on it. So there's an active discussion essentially saying that you should essentially carry the original and not the copy.
So I would say in this case, just make sure that you carry your. So keep in mind that when I'm applying for my clients, make copies of the naturalization certificate. So, it's not a violation to carry, to create a copy because they literally require a copy of the naturalization certificate for purposes of approving an application. But if you're really in doubt and conflicted, you just need your valid current driver's license with your current citizenship data on it or your passport.
Okay. And I'm gonna do two more questions and we're gonna wrap it up there. DJ Snook says, I've been through the something as him. Mine was down to 2 weeks after 8 months. Now it's 8 months again. I'm not sure which.
Wow. Yeah, so that's the same app that people look at to see where they're at and how long they have to wait to get their case decided.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it goes up and down. It just depends on what's going on. It's likely because of the workload at the wherever your service center or wherever your document is.
Mm-hmm.
So it gets longer, it's shorter. So it doesn't guarantee that it's going to fall within those 2 weeks. It just depends on what's happening. And right now, with the administration in place, they are rearranging how they look at policies. And so they're going to be slowly rolling out, or I don't know, maybe not even slowly, we might have a little whiplash, but they're going to be rolling out new processes to processes that could affect the processing times here. So that may be a contributing factor to this as well.
Okay. And the final question is, what is the naturalized test now? Computer or in person?
So it's in person. So it's never been a test that's been by computer. You do have to go in person to your naturalization certificate, and they ask you questions. The writing test is on a pad, so you usually write on the pad. But the officer will ask you the questions in person.
Okay, perfect. Well, that would end all the questions from your many, many, many viewers. I think we had a very lively discussion, and a lot of people appreciated what was shared today. And if you should have any questions, feel free to reach out to Miss Tharp at her website or at her phone number. And your contact information again is
So you can call me at 561-405-4889. That's our phone number. Call right now. We are on hand to do your free initial evaluations to get started. Also, join and subscribe, like the channels on YouTube. So, Getting the Green Card. It's all one word. You can subscribe there. And in the descriptions of the videos and the main profile, you'll see the links to go to the website and to sign up there for evaluations as well. I'm also on Instagram. So I'm immigration lawyer Sharifa on Instagram. You can join me there, or ST Law Office on Facebook.
Perfect. And I'm gonna try to add your phone number there.
Yeah.
Okay. Hopefully everyone can see it. Um, Feel free to reach out to Sharifa. She shared some very, very, very valuable information with regard to what's going on here. The key takeaway is, the laws are still in effect, right? It's yes, it's under attack, and we need to be mindful of what's going on. I also want to discuss the process of civil forfeiture, right? So if you are uh, in a situation where, such as in the state of Florida, if it's considered a criminal act to be an illegal immigrant, then it essentially affords the state or the whatever authority to exercise civil forfeiture. That's obviously one of the mechanisms that they can use to either tighten the ring, so to speak. And civil forfeiture is not just an act that can be used against the immigrant or the violator in that process. It could be used against a business owner. It could be used against someone who is considered a facilitator of that process, right? So me what my recommendation to you as an estate planning attorney is, make sure that you are protecting your assets if you have accrued any assets over the years that you've been here, and that includes whether or not you are in the process or not, right? So if you employ people who are in the process, you might be subject to civil forfeiture, right? So you want to make sure that you're protecting your assets with a trust. Obviously, you can reach out to us for that. But please do reach out to Sharifa with regard to any assistance that you need. Obviously, if you want to reach out to me, I will definitely forward her information to you as well. Thank you, Sharifa, for all that you do. You have been fearlessly defending this community and doing the work that you do. I highly respect it, especially in an environment such as this.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. And I do want to add one more thing too. When it comes to even having a plan in place for your children, if you're the sole take care of your caretaker of your children, make sure you have a backup plan. And Marlon is a great resource for that as well. To be able to plan or advise on guardianship issues as well, and you know things in place to protect your children if anything should happen. Lord forbid, but this is why I say get in touch now before anything happens, because I'm looking at solutions to prevent this from happening. So thank you again, Marlon, for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. And I've left her phone number and website in the chat just in case you're not seeing that information here. Thank you once again. It's been a pleasure. Thank you everyone for attending, and I appreciate everything that you're doing, Sharifa.
Thank you so much, Marlon. Thank you. Have a good one, everybody.
You too.
Bye